Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Lord's Discordant. I'm your host today. It is Shane from My Mini Res, the Lord of Death. We have with us Ross from Ragnaros Studios, the Lords of Fenris.
Yo, yo, yo.
We also have the Lord of Excess, Mr. Snibs Hammer. Simon is back in the studio with us.
Swiggity swooty, my dudes.
And we have a wonderful, very lovely special guest, one of the other sort of founding fathers of the Lord's Discordant, which is James. Welcome back, James.
Hello, everyone. Good to be back after the lost episode.
Yes, we did. We've tried a couple of times to record with James, and hopefully this isn't foreshadowing. It's always gone wrong. Something has happened with it. Whether it's the four lords together or what, I'm not entirely certain. But there we go. How are we all? We had a good week.
Yeah, lovely, mate. Lovely week.
Absolutely splendid.
So I wanted to start this episode just by talking a little bit, especially with Simon and with James, about how we got into the hobby and how we started. For those who regularly listen to us, the 2-3 people that do, one, thank you very much. But two, we're going to try and have a little bit of structure to this episode, which is going to be really quite strange. So we'll talk about getting into the hobby, starting with the hobby for a couple of minutes. James, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first. I also can't promise that with me being on there will be any structure whatsoever, but I'll do my best.
Play Imperial Fist, there has to be structure.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I will fortify this podcast. So I got into the hobby originally all the way back in 3rd edition. Ross, I believe you were playing then as well, right? Or did you not play until later?
What year was 3rd edition?
It was like 2002 or 3 or something.
98.
No, yeah, I was going to say
Oh
I
my
was
God.
probably about 7 when I first had a Warhammer model.
Oh, okay, I was wrong.
It was out for a while. Not, the 3rd edition was out for a while, but it was back in 98.
Okay, so like maybe 1990,000. But yeah, I had Tau, everyone's favorite these days, and and Eldar, who I may collect again in future. But yeah, so I kind of drifted away from the hobby. I think you said on a previous episode this kind of happened to a few of you. I kind of carried on reading the books and playing the games. Dawn of War, Simon and I were talking about earlier.
Ooh.
Great RTS, I was a big
Yep.
fan of. Yeah, and then Ross and I, kind of during COVID, I think, we were sort of meeting up and having socially distanced cigarette breaks as a way to pass the time. And we sort of started chatting about Warhammer, and I kind of got back into it a bit more. And then it was probably about a year or two ago. It was about 18 months ago, I think. I started playing with our friend Joe, all of us know the podcast, obviously. I had a couple of games at his house, little sort of skirmish matches and stuff. And I was like, hey, this is pretty fun. So I decided to kind of dive back in, really, after Ross also persuaded me quite a lot. I remember having, what was it? Was it 1,000 point game we had, Ross, with your Votan? Where you
Oh yeah,
you
sorry.
tormented me with
Sorry.
with you tormented me with Uther the Destined.
Yeah.
What happened in
Yeah,
that one? What was that?
So
Oh.
I think Ross made me basically like a pretend Imperial Fists list from his Space Wolves, and
Right.
he ran his Votan, and he had that Uther the Destined guy who at the time could change. Was it change one roll into
Yeah,
a
he
6?
could change a roll into a 6, and no matter what damage he took, it only classed as 1 damage.
Yeah, he obviously he also had devastating wounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically he just chewed through my entire army, and then at the very end of the game, my Ballistus Dreadnought of all things kicked him to death. And Ross command re-rolled the save to keep him alive.
The game literally ended the second I rolled it. I went, he's back! And then the game ended, and I was like, Uther's just there, and he's like, you couldn't let me have it. And I went, nope.
Yeah.
Wow.
That will.
Welcome to Votan.
Yeah. To be honest, as long as I'm playing this game, that will haunt me forever. And then after that, I sort of started playing a few more games. Shane, you were actually, I think, the first person that I had like a proper full-on 2,000 point game with. If
That
you
sounds
remember.
familiar, actually. Yeah, we did quite early on, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was. I think I looked actually. It was like last September over at LXT. It's obviously been mentioned on the podcast before, so big shout out to LXT in the arena. Yeah, and I've kind of been playing over there ever since. Really, had a couple of tournaments, and yeah, gradually kind of finding my way just in time for 10th to change to 11th.
Yes, and a new edition. And this will be the first time, sort of properly, you've been involved in an edition change as well, won't it?
Yeah, because I used to kind of, hang around with, well, all of you guys when I think you were playing ninth potentially, and to be honest, it looked horribly confusing.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think as Chris said on the last episode, or someone said on the last episode, I think it was Chris, 10th is a lot more, well, simplified, not simple, I think was
Yeah.
the term that was used. And I definitely think that's true. For someone getting back into the hobby, 10th has honestly been really easy to pick up and learn, whereas ninth seemed pretty kind of rules heavy and yeah, there was a lot to navigate. So
A lot of admin involved. Yeah.
yeah. So no, it'll be the first time I'm kind of, experiencing an edition change. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens.
It should be really good. No, it's brilliant. And Mr. Snibs, you had a slightly different introduction / lifetime with the hobby, haven't you?
I have, mate. Yeah. I originally got into Warhammer in the first time, around about 5th edition. And it was basically because I remember back in the day, like you used to get those like Warhammer catalogs and stuff, which had all the models in it. And my older brothers like had it in the house. And I remember just seeing, the sort of the Tyranid models in there and stuff. And I was like, I need some of that in my life. So I got some Tyranids back in the day, but I never really did much with it. I sort of played a couple of games and then went onto a sort of hiatus whilst I, went through uni and that sort of thing, and just did life. And then, as we touched on earlier on, lockdown happened, and it was quite a difficult time for a lot of people, I think, and I think the sort of restlessness and sort of boredom of lockdown pushed a lot of people back towards the hobby.
Definitely.
I was definitely one of those people. So I remember my brother was sort of talking about Warhammer and stuff, and then I was just looking at like models on Element Games, and I just stumbled across the new Winged Hive Tyrant, which I'd never seen because that wasn't a thing in 5th edition.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my god, that thing is amazing. So I bought it just because I was like, do you know what? Maybe I'll paint some models. Maybe that's something I can do. And then all of a sudden, the sort of 1 or 2 models that I was buying just to paint became like hundreds of models for Tyranids. And I just like went on this rampage just painting them. And then through, one of my best friends, Shannon, I met a man called Faris, who you all know. And he was, also into Warhammer. And bear in mind, at the time, I didn't really know anyone in the community. And then when we met, he was like, oh, you'll have to come over mine at some point and, we'll play Warhammer. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure I can try and scrounge together a list to play. So I very rapidly built a list and then played 2 games at his house over a course of a weekend. Lost both of them horrifically. But then it sort of gave me this itch. And I was like, yeah, I reckon I can learn this. This is fun. Because as James said, you roll a couple of dice and you go, oh, look, I've missed with everything. And then you kill one mod and you go, yeah, I did that. And I really got into it from there and just started playing quite a lot. And then from there, I sort of, played in a couple of tournaments after that as I started to get a sort of grip on the hobby. I did, in fact, in the first tournament that I went to, win a Warhammer store champion because I came first in that tournament, and I have a little fancy glass trophy for that. And then after that, I started doing stuff with the Vale Renegades, so I started going up there to play in the Rumbles and those events just because I really got a flavour for the competitive side of things, which is really where my focus is in terms of, 40k and that sort of thing. And it's really like sort of the bit that I'm passionate about. I do like, the competitive element of it.
I think you've probably done the most competitive games versus any of us, I think, haven't you?
It's quite possible, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like, since that day, since, Faris was like, yeah, come over, let's play Warhammer. Since that day, I don't think there's been, like, more than about 3 weeks where I haven't played Warhammer, and that was like in the first year of 9th edition. So I'm thinking, you know, in about 5 years, I don't think I've not played Warhammer for like more than a three-week period, which is, yeah, it was quite a dramatic, you know, upshoot in terms of something. It's now, you know, one of the central hobbies in my life. It's something that I'm very passionate about and that I do love. Yeah.
So Ross, obviously me and you discussed our entries to the hobby, but I think you owe a lot of your current level of hobby to James. Is that right?
Honestly, it is a few people, to be completely honest.
No.
No.
I taught Ross everything he knows about Warhammer.
That's fair.
Yeah, no. Well, I can get into it if you want.
Yeah, it'd be good just to have a little catch up with the man involved. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay, so the very first time I saw Warhammer, I was about 7. My older brother and his friends were playing Warhammer Fantasy. He had Chaos and Skaven and Orcs and stuff. I thought, this is really cool, I want to get some. And I was obsessed with reptiles when I was 7, like everyone. So I got lizard men.
Yes.
And I remember those models of those lizard men warriors were only updated in the last few years.
Yep.
It was, yeah, honestly, it was horrible.
Jesus,
but
like
yeah,
5 years old.
I remember painting them green straight out of the pot, and that was about as far as I got. And that was literally it. And then I think back in 2002, I don't remember how, but I remember just having some Dark Eldar warriors in front of me on my desk in like when I was about 12.
Oh, okay.
And I was just painting. I was painting because they were like their armor at that point was like kind of it's like leveled. So I was doing like one level black, one level purple, one level black, one purple. That was, that's when you start finding like, like you can start going for your edgy phase. So I was like, oh yeah, everything's going to be like dark and gloomy, bro. And
possibly that was the 3rd edition box set.
Yeah, it might have been because I just remember having them and going like, yeah, Dark Eldar, that sounds cool. Or Dark Eldar. But yeah, and then like GCSE time, me and Joe, which Taylor just mentioned, we randomly, like instead of actually studying for our GCSEs, we just randomly went to town, went to the GW store, bought like I don't know what they were called. It was basically like a combat patrol. It had a rhino, 10 tactical guys in the squad, and 3 bikes, I think.
Yeah, was it like an army box?
Yeah,
something like that. Because the thing is like that was
Battle
when.
Force.
Yeah, was it Battle Force?
Yeah.
I remember we were doing it. I don't remember what Joe painted his, but I remember painting mine and going, "Oh, mine are gonna look cool. They're gonna be black with gold trim." I bet no other army in the game has got that. So again, at this point, I still had not a clue what was going on. All I knew is these guys wore armor, and that was it. But it was one of those things. It was like after GCSEs, that was it. Like I never played the game. I didn't understand it was a game. I didn't know any of the lore. I didn't know half the armies. I just knew that these guys looked cool. And yeah, it was like that for years. And like like with Taylor, like every time we go out drinking, it was just like, oh, do you remember Warhammer, like all this other stuff?
Yeah.
And it'd always bring it up and things. And be like, oh man, I'd love to get back into that. Like it's such a cool hobby, but like never did. And yeah, a couple of years passed. About a year before COVID, I think it was, and before lockdown or whatever. And I remember coming up to Wales, I'd moved away at that point, and met up with Taylor. And we were having a chat. We were having a little pint somewhere. I think it was when Tiny Rebel was still a place.
Oh, those are the days.
Yeah. And yeah, we were talking about it again, because obviously it always came up. And yeah, Taylor was talking to me about it, and he was going like, oh yeah, well, I think this is when you were telling me that, the storyline actually progressed, and that's what brought you kind of back into like the lore side of things.
Yeah,
when Cadia exploded and Guilliman came back.
Yeah. I remember, like, funnily enough, a very similar thing happened to me where a friend of mine in Swansea was a big Warhammer fan. He had Dark Angels, I think, and I was sort of talking to him about it, much like what happened to us. And I said, well, I got, part of the reason I kind of lost interest in the lore anyways, because it never changed. And he was like, it's so different now. Like, Cadia's gone, Gulliman's back. I was like, what?
Yeah, well, this happened. And then, so I really, like, because I was traveling a lot, because I was, like, driving back to Wales and down to Dorset and stuff. So I was doing about 3 hours drive there, 3 hours drive back. And I was like, I'm really curious about this. So, like, I was smashing all these YouTube videos down, like, what are Space Marines, like what are like the different armies. Oh, it turns out that they're not just blue. Turns out there's other colors. What are those about? What's a Primarch? What's a Legion? What happened to the Emperor? Like, you know, like you start like you know, like everyone else does when they start this hobby. They just start chugging YouTube channels and
Yep.
like lore videos and like smashing it all into them. So like, you know, so next time I go up to Wales and I see Taylor, we can have a pint, and I can be like, oh yeah, that stuff on Katie, that was crazy, wasn't it? Oh, yeah. And you know, so like we can have proper chats, and obviously Taylor like always been into the lore of this stuff. So he's like I was always like just randomly mentioning something, and then he'd be like, oh yeah, so this book, you should read this book, blah blah blah. But yeah, so well, like you said, COVID happened, lockdown happened, everyone's locked indoors, not a lot to do.
Yep.
And I spoke to him about it, and I was like, oh man, like how cool would it be if we started doing this? And Taylor went, we'll just buy some. And I went, oh yeah. So I went off and bought some.
You're an adult.
Yeah,
You have...
yeah. I was like, why didn't I think of that? So yeah. I ordered Space Wolf. Again, it wasn't called Combat Patrol back then. That was it. Again, I think it was just called like Starter Box.
Yeah.
Hairy Horde, I think.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah. The wolf pack. And yeah, so they're all firstborn ones. And I remember like painting them, and I was like watching all the YouTube channels how to paint models. And yeah, how Warhammer tell you to paint models back then. God, I can't imagine anyone having anything good out of that. You have to like prime it 3 times before you even like painted it. I was like, oh, I don't like this.
Was this back in the? This is when Duncan Rhodes. You had like
yeah,
the
he was
Warhammer?
still there. Yeah. It was like spray them black, then spray them the Fang, then put rust grey over them, then do it again with Fenrisian grey. And I'm like, they got 6 layers. I didn't know about watering paints at this point, so I'm looking at these weird greyish blue, yeah, like grey blue like slabs on my desk, and I'm like, man, I'm a great painter. And
Basically,
yeah.
accidentally made like the flood from Halo.
Oh mate, yeah,
Just
honestly,
killed it.
they're in a box underneath my desk, and every time I pick them out, I'm just like, this is where I was once.
It's probably
just-
kind of cool to have that as like a frame of reference, though, right? See how.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm dragging this a bit much, but yeah, like I said, met up with Taylor, and every single day in COVID, I just sat there smashing lore videos, painting, more painting videos, painting, more videos, painting, and every time Taylor came up, I was like, check this out, like, and it got to the point. I think Taylor bought Ragnar Blackmane when he literally just dropped.
Oh,
And yeah, he got me Ragnar Blackmane for my birthday, and I was like,
hero.
this is and I was like, so this is what the hell's a Primaris? And yeah, I sat there and I was like, he got me the main guy for my army, and I'm gonna make sure he's painted well. And like, so I was on him for about a month, I think, at that point. And yeah, he's quite well now, isn't he, Taylor? Like,
Yeah.
Actually, I've got him directly in front of me because I had to unpack the army earlier, and like, he still holds up to the army now. Like,
No,
I'm pretty chuffed with that.
He still looks really good. Like considering you painted him like 5 years ago or something.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely really good.
But
To be fair, I was going to buy you Logan Grimnar on Santa's sleigh, but I
Oh
couldn't
god,
find
that
it.
model.
I'm
That
so glad
model
you
is
didn't.
So funny.
I hated Logan until he got a refresh, and I went, "This is the best character ever."
I mean, man, like what were they doing when they made that model? It is
Ah.
ridiculous. I mean, it's funny, but like it is ridiculous.
Oh.
I can see why nobody played it.
Actually, sorry, I've skipped a section.
Oh,
I
wow.
will. I will speed run the rest of this, but I have to mention this. I think I did mention it before, but I have to say this. When we came back, and I was talking to Taylor about the armies and stuff, and he was telling me they're not just blue. There's different chapters, different legions, different stuff. And he said there's a different flavor. Any flavor you want, there's an army out there for you. And he goes, "What do you like?" And I said, "I like Vikings. I like wolves, and I think werewolves are cool." And he goes, "Mate, you will not believe me." You will not believe me when I tell you there's an army. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah,
But,
literally, like the custom-made faction for Ross. Like, yeah, it's like,
Oh,
buddy,
mate,
you're
honestly.
not gonna believe this.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
but
perfect, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, but just a speed run the rest of it. You know, I kind of went a bit deep there, but yeah, you know, played after COVID. Joe told us about a club in Newport, the NGC.
Yeah.
We went there. I met a guy called Chris, who was on with us last episode.
Woo.
Chris basically taught me how to play 9th edition. He played me every day for about 3 months. Every week, sorry. No, that was a bit too much. Every week for 3 months. He taught me how to play 9th edition. He played multiple different armies back then as well.
Yeah.
I finally had my first win against him after about 2 months, and I was against his 1,000 Suns, which really hit home for me with Space Wolves.
Oh, nice, yeah.
He taught me about the Crusade, and he actually created one. He made a Crusade for everyone to do narrative. He introduced me to tournaments. He took me to my first tournament that wasn't at the club, in Firestorm in Cardiff, and we did a tournament over there. He got me a ticket for Tabletop Tactics studio at the lodge when the first open day they had when the new studio was built.
Yeah.
And because both our birthdays are around the same time, so we both went there for a birthday bash together and did TT. So yeah, so I didn't mention the last episode, but Chris is a huge, like, Chris and Taylor. Basically, without them, I wouldn't be here. I'd probably still be stuck on playing Xbox or something. But like, yeah, Taylor got me into it. Chris got me into the gaming side of it, and yeah, since, like, that's it. Since then, he's just been doing that. Like I said, a year or two ago, we when you guys started doing the LXT, and then you invited me over. Then I went to LXT and met everyone at the arena. Met Jake and James and all the other lads, and yeah, like, I was a casual gamer, but now I'm just like, oh, when's the next tournament? What's the next tournament? Like, I don't. Yeah, I don't care about winning, and I won't bring a broken list. I will bring a list which I think is cool, but I want to see how far I can get with a list which is not meta sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. On that.
Yeah.
That infectious enthusiasm, which helps. And again, between the sort of four of us, we do talk a lot outside the podcast as well. So yeah, it's always nice to bring that in, but it's always good to kind of get that start of that cycle.
Well, again, sorry, just last one is Simon here as well. Simon was the main reason I got into actually getting good at the game.
Yeah.
And because me and Simon I played as Tyranids basically all through 9th.
Yeah.
And that's like, it was it your Screamer Killers? Yeah. I had no idea about secondaries and primaries. I was just like, my mission is to kill all you Screamer Killers. Like, I don't care if I lose, I'm happy. Like, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Back in the
Space
day
Wolves
when
and Nids.
I used to run 6 Screamer Killer Can effects with an old one eye. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
They
That
were
was it.
there.
That was great. Again, yeah, it without getting soppy, like I could sit here for the next like 40 minutes and name so many people that have helped me through my stuff. But as everyone is thinking, I'm gonna shut up now. So Shane,
No,
over to you.
Well, I did want to ask a question, but because
Oh yeah.
for everyone, and we'll decide in a second who goes first. But obviously, James was talking to you about the essentially the custom made chapter for you, which was the Space Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Originally been a Legion. We're talking about the lore. We've all gone. I am a little bit behind. I won't lie, but we've all gone through the Horus Heresy. I know one of the answers here. Mine might surprise you all. So I'm going to ask more sort of James and Ross, but I'll make Simon answer first.
Oh.
Let's say that we were to do heresy, or let's say that we were to focus on a legion pre-betrayal or pre-heresy. What legion would you do, or what legion would you go for, Simon?
I mean, for me, it's always going to be White Scars. White Scars are definitively the best Space Marines, in my opinion. There's just like, I think there's a massive misunderstanding about the White Scars. Everyone's like, oh, Space Marines on bikes. And you go, no, that's kind of not the point. The entire point of them is they're like sort of, mysterious. Like the entire idea was that, they were like called the Laughing Killers because they had this thing of taking joy in combat and, exaltation through like, service to the Emperor. And their entire thing was basically just that they were, trying to live their life to the fullest and like take sort of that pleasure in like, speed and prosecution of their objectives. And also, they're based on the Mongolians, and the Mongolians were cool. So yeah, now for me, always White Scars. Also, I love how they look. I think they look sick.
They're wicked, and you've done some stunning paint jobs on them as well. James, what about you, being a sort of lore aficionado?
Well, my answer may shock you. I would obviously I'd go for the Imperial Fists.
You'd stick with
Um,
them. You wouldn't change it up if you went Free Heresy Legion.
No, I mean, because I
That's
like
his
them.
edition.
Yeah, I like them so much that I collect them in 40k, where they are quite bad.
True,
So I would
yeah.
not pass up the chance to collect them, like, because I don't know loads about the Heresy game, but assuming this is the question, but like I kind of get the vibe that they're effectively like the poster boys for the Imperium in the same way that the Ultramarines are in 40k, right?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would 100% stick with the Imperial Fist. I mean, if I went traitor, I would then go with a faction that I know is very near and dear to Shane's heart, especially, which is the Death Guard, obviously.
But they're both pretty solid choices, so that's fair. That makes sense. Ross, what about you?
Well, I am going to shock everyone with this answer because you were not expecting to hear this, right?
Thousand Suns.
Word bearers, because he loves Erebus so much.
Alpha Legion.
I would go Space Wolves.
No way.
Just to let you know, I currently have Resin, Horus Heresy, Lehman Russ in my hand while I answer this question. So,
when we record these podcasts, do you just spend your time molesting various models?
mate, I'm telling you right now. Right, do you want me to give you a rundown? Right?
Is it PG?
Or-
Is it suitable for...
Horus Heresy, Lehman Russ, Thunderwolf Cavalry, Bjorn Fellhanded, Arjag Logan, loads of Space Wolf Terminators, loads of Head Takers, Blood Claws, Wolfen. I've got them all around my keyboard while we're doing this.
Nice.
I mean,
Like, I'm surrounded by Space Wolves right now.
I wish I could judge Ross based on that, but ever since I was saying, yeah, in terms of, the Space Marines, White Scars, I am literally holding in my hands one of the converted Blood Claws that I did as White Scars, just going, yeah, I need to paint some more of those.
It feels like we
Good
need the FBI open up meme if we were to put memes into podcasts. Like, these models are just being abused. Oh
To
dear.
be fair, sorry to interrupt. So, to be fair, someone mentioned Alpha Legion, and I do actually think Alpha Legion are really cool, but I also think that their whole kind of lore gimmick does not translate well to tabletop. As
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, it's very story, isn't it? But not very. Words are failing me.
It's because of the fact that it's all based around that idea of like subterfuge and them having plans upon plans and like
Yeah.
dismantling systems from within. That doesn't really work on the tabletop because of the fact you go, oh, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to shoot my propaganda machine and collapse the internal government. It just doesn't work that way, does it?
They do have, I think it's the Alpha Legion. When I was looking to get a Chaos Army, I considered them, and they do have the best stratagem I think I've ever seen, which is if
I know the
you have
one.
a character near near like an enemy vehicle and you blow it up, you can just make it explode, which is like
What?
just very satisfying.
Random bombs, random explosions. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just really
Well-
called like remote detonator or something, and you can just like
yeah.
make vehicles blow up.
Well, I've got a quick question for all of you then, just while we're on this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Taylor can't have Imperial Fists, Shane can't have Blood Angels, Simon can't have White Scars, and I can't have Space Wolves. Just to make this a little easier, what Space Marine chapter would you go for instead?
Chapter or Legion?
They've all got to be loyalist.
In
Okay.
40k or 30k?
This is 40k now. If you
40K.
couldn't have your Imperial Fists and your Blood Angels and your White Scars, 40k, which one would you pick?
Oh no.
Are you talking chapters or Legion now?
No, yeah, loyalist.
No, yeah, loyalist chapters, 40k.
So I was
Chapters.
going. So the reason I asked that question is because mine are Warhounds and Dust Raiders. If I were to do a
Okay.
Legion, I would do one of
Oh.
those two.
Well, that wasn't the question, was
Well,
it?
it's not the question now, is it? So you've spun that off a little bit, which is really bloody annoying.
Well, I thought it was because it was painfully obvious that it was like Imperial Fist, White Scars, and Space Wolves. What was your answer, Shane?
That's
you
my
answer?
Yeah, no, well, no, that's what I mean.
That was
Yeah,
My
sorry.
answer is Warhounds or Dusk Raiders.
Yeah, you took too long.
Yeah,
Trying to be
okay,
edgy and
clearly.
pick them.
Oh,
Ooh,
so
they're not
you
called
would-
anymore.
No.
No. So you would actually, ironically, you would actually go for technically Death Guard.
Yeah, when they're clean,
That's great, as right.
when the showers work.
Yeah, when they're not so smelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Because
man
the
all
lore
day.
is amazing. Garrow,
Oh,
prime example,
Nathaniel.
before they turn, absolutely incredible. And I was trying to find this for something else recently, and this stems from one of the guys I used to work with, who manages the store in Cumbrawn. If I remember rightly, they are Welsh. Death Guard originally, or just Raiders originally, are Welsh because of where they came from on Terra.
I think the Iron Hands are meant to be Scottish originally as well.
Yeah, sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
you know what
to
they're
be
like up
fair-
there.
To be fair, one of the most famous, Iron Hands from the entire, Horus Heresy is literally called Shadrach Magician.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like Jock McDonald or something then.
yeah.
Well, do you know?
In fairness, Shadrach. I mean,
Yeah. Did you know a fun lore fact is they were actually originally called the Iron Brew Hands, and then they changed the name.
Excellent.
Jesus.
So
Yeah, and brew.
to answer your question, Ross, that you just asked,
Mhm.
well, when I was getting back into the hobby, I did consider getting Dark Angels, so I would probably say them.
Oh, good answer. What about you, Shane?
See,
You can't pick Deathwatch either.
no, fair. Okay, yeah. So, being from the north, being from near the Viking capital of England, and being bearded, it's always felt like I should go Space Wolves, and I do like them. Don't get me wrong, but I really don't know because I like all of them. I actually think, and I'm preparing to be booed at this point, I would probably go with
Boo.
a full Ultramarines army.
Now, Ultramarines are cool.
I've said this before, based on, I think it's a meme consensus, isn't it? Where everyone's like, oh, Smurfs. But ultimately, if you read some of the books about them, like you read the Ventress novels, you read like Dawn of Fire, the Plague Wars, the Ultramarines are really, really cool. Like, I just think that they get tagged with this thing where it's like, oh, Smurfs.
Yeah.
that's
People
it,
who
isn't
don't like Ultramarines are usually in two different groups. They're either brand new to the hobby and they know nothing about the lore apart from meme culture, or they're been in the hobby for decades at this point and they remember how broken they were with their codex back in the day.
Yeah, isn't the reason?
No, they weren't really that bad. Grey Knights is always an option.
Oh, Grey Knights am I think? Oh, is it Grey Knights I'm thinking of?
Grey Knights were when the Matt Ward came.
Yeah, Matt Ward. Yeah.
And
Oh, I thought he did Ultramarines as well.
Yeah, but it wasn't anywhere near the same level. I mean, Grey Knights were, and they are cool. Suffering a little bit now, but they are cool. I remember the store manager for Cardiff when I worked there. He used to have his Ultramarines army on display, and they really do look cool. It's all Roman, so you've got that whole Roman Empire style thing going on as well.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I think it would be.
If I did Ultramarines, I would want to convert them to make them a lot more Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like have their blade guard with the circle shield. They've all got gladius like swords. They've all got like the sort of Spartan helmet kind of thing going on.
I was thinking the same thing. Like if I ever got, because I agree. I think they're cool. Let's be honest. Romans are cool.
We know that.
I was just thinking if I ever did get them, I mean I probably won't, then I would probably paint them in a different scheme as well.
Ooh, that's not Ultramarine.
Blue.
That blue is wicked to paint, by the way. Ultramarines blue is so much fun to paint.
I disagree. I've got an Ultramarine commission on the go, and I've been staring at them for months because I just cannot paint them.
Yeah, I remember you getting that. How is that still? How's that still going?
Honestly, man, I'm staring out now. There's a grey pile over there with some blue. I just every time I pick them up, I just go, oh, I can't be bothered, and I just put them down again.
Is it because you are used to painting that lighter storm blue for the Space Wolves?
Well, I don't know because I've got 7 armies, so I'm used to painting different colours. Even though about 4 of them the same color, but whatever. But that's enough about me. So, Simon, what's your answer?
My answer, it's something which I already knew what I was going to say second, because it was the one thing that I was potentially going to do instead of White Scars. For me, it is the Raptors chapter of the Raven Guard.
Oh, yes, mate.
Because
Yes.
also the backstory on their lore and everything like that, like, again, stems from the heresy, as most things do. Where, like, they basically become a chapter, but the Raptors are basically, you know, they stem from Korax trying to basically rebuild his legion, and then creating genetic abominations that have, like, mutations and, like, you know, talons and stuff. But basically, because he's like, no, it's not their fault, I did this to them, he just puts them in armor and just basically sets them to war. And then they basically become so renowned during the heresy that an entire chapter is born from it without the mutations. And then they just become these, like, you know, hyper militarized, you know, special forces type guys. And they're in that beautiful green as well. It's like that sort of, you know, olive drab color. And it just looks amazing.
Have you seen Pete the Wargamer's conversions?
I have. You showed me them.
Oh, yeah, mate. Honestly, I saw that and I was like, do I really want Space Wolves?
I mean, that does throw me in. I was reading something on them the other day. I think it was one of the excerpts. The Carcharodons.
Oh, yeah.
When you could run
the
them.
space sharks.
Yeah, when Imperial armor was a thing and they had... You could run the army and you could run them with the medics, with the sergeants, which were apothecaries, and you could properly theme the army. They were absolutely tip-top. And the fact that the chapter master is frigging massive.
Oh, Tybros and Red Wake.
Oh.
He is so big that his Terminator armor has dreadnought parts on it.
Yeah.
What's his weapons called? Something in Slake?
There's Hunger and Slake.
Hunger and Slake. Yeah. Lightning claws with chainsaws underneath, sort of thing.
Absolutely wicked. That kind of ties me on quite nicely. Oh, sorry.
And for some reason, his power claws, his, you know, absolutely badass power claws, they have a red power field, which is just because, you know, obviously sharks, blood. And yeah, I like that GW just went, yes.
His lightning claws what?
His lightning claws have a red power field, because GW obviously went, oh yes, sharks, blood.
So yeah, they're red and they're really cool.
Well, before Shane jumps on to our next subject, cuts me off, I'll answer my own question, because no one asked me.
Go on then. Oh, that's how it feels, is it?
No one cares, so it's fine. I'll just sit here anyway. But the chapter I would pick is also a Firstborn chapter that came straight from the Heresy, and I would actually say it's my favourite army. Even with Space Wolf, I love Space Wolf. Space Wolf's got everything to do with me, but this army is my favourite, and it's Crimson Fists.
Yeah, I should have.
Okay, yeah.
I love Crimson Fists. The second you read Rin's World, you love Crimson Fists. That book broke me.
They were really cool. Not the battle. They had a special name. I can't think what they were called, but yeah, those battle novels like the Rin's World one and stuff were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, they were so good.
Well, they were the original Space Marines, basically, right?
Yep.
And like the famous old artwork that I'm sure you can all picture the one I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
It used to be on the front of the rulebook, I believe. Yeah, that's I think they were kind of the original poster boys for Space Marines, right?
Yep.
Well, that's why I think Pedro Cantor will be getting a new model next year, because it'll be 40K's 40th anniversary. And he's still in your codex, isn't he?
Yeah,
even though he's resin.
He still counts. Well, he'd say
not
still,
resin.
He counts as a Imperial Fist character, which is kind of cool. You can't use him with any of the others, but I'll definitely get him, and then you can just kind of run, an alternate kind of list. I think he basically does for Stern Guard what Lysander does for Terminators. He makes them
okay,
yeah, etc.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, he's pretty neat.
Right, Shane, it's up to you now.
Yeah, so what I was going to do, and again, Rin's World and the battle books are quite a nice sort of link to it as well. And what I wanted to bring up is, we've got all these really cool cinematic, really narrative battles and crusades and campaigns and events and all these different things that are going on. We're aware, obviously, that terrain is changing for 11th edition and how we interact with terrain and how the boards are laid out. Do you guys think, in your various levels as wargamers and builders and painters and hobbyists and competitive players as well, that we're going to go to, or we're going to go back to, the much more narrative-themed boards and terrains and layouts? I'm going to throw that one to Ross first of all.
Ooh, I have been chosen.
The Claw.
What do I think? I think, yeah, it's going to be 11th edition is going to be a lot more narrative, because the whole point of getting rid of the circles and changing them to ruins, and technically, I think they said you can make these ruins, as long as they're the right base sizes, you can have whatever you want on them.
Mm.
And instead of going, oh, I'm going to send this squad to stand in the middle of the battlefield and scratch themselves because they've got nothing better to do,
Nice.
just so I can win some points. Now you're going to go, this squad is going to take the Vox Tower on the left, and they're going to hold that, because that's obviously going to help me win this battle, having communication access and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think, even because like with us, we play a lot more. Like, I think I was definitely a lot more casual, but we play a lot more competitive now. But it always kind of sucks when you sat there and everyone's got a beautifully painted army. You've got these beautiful painted terrain and like all this other stuff, nice boards, and then you go, oh, it's a big circle on the board. I'm gonna go stand on the mouse mat. It's gonna be so much cooler now, being like, my infantry are gonna hold this position. They have the artillery cannon or whatever it is, and they're gonna hold that. So transports can get in later or something, or to stop anti-aircraft taking over, sort of thing. So like, even if you don't play casually, I think that will force you to play more narrative.
You're gonna
just how it works. And yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. No, I like that. That's fair. Simon, what about you?
So I'm a little bit on the fence with this one, because I don't necessarily think it will enforce a narrative change. I do think that, as I touched on the last time I was on, so 2 episodes ago, that it does seem to be the case that they are pushing for objectives and primary missions to be a lot more focused around, the terrain and, the new setups and that sort of thing. But I do think it will be nice to be able to make your boards look a little less basic. Like, they've got one which is like a 10-inch by 2-inch, like, line of sight blocking thing. And that it seems to me that, you're not going to be able to put a building on that. And it's very clear that they are basically going, go on, put a pipe on it.
Yeah.
Put a barricade there. Because I think they want the tables to look a little bit more engaging. And like Ross said, if I don't have to stand on mouse mats and I can go and capture a building on the right, I do think that people will be like, oh, so what, what's they doing? You go, oh, but we're going to go over here to the right and we're going to secure this building,
Yeah.
Which does in itself, influence a bit of a narrative sort of shift towards games. And I do like that, but I also don't think it'll, like, as a, primarily competitive player, I don't think it's going to detract from the competitive element of the game. And I still think there will be a lot of fun that can be had on that element as well.
Yeah, and I think and both of you are kind of making the same point as well, that the competitive style and the balanced way of playing is still going to be there. But yeah, it's not just a bit of mouse mat, a bit of neoprene on the board now. It's going to be a bit of a change up. James, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been probably playing relatively seriously for like, 6 to 9 months, whatever. And I think I've played like 4 different layouts in that entire time.
Yeah.
I think the current game, I don't want to say it feels stagnant, but it just feels like, I guess it feels like a game, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel very organic, like kind of touching on what Ross said, especially, like, it makes more sense, I think, from even from a gameplay perspective, to be like, let's defend this building, or let's attack, the enemy headquarters, or we'll seize this Vox Tower or whatever, instead of being, hey, let's stand on this circle in the middle of the board. And I just think it just kind of feels like very like designed. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that really makes sense what I'm saying, but I think yeah, I think the kind of pivot to that is a lot better, and I guess from a mission perspective as well. I think you may have discussed this in a previous episode, possibly, but the fact that your primaries are more kind of faction specific, I think,
Yeah.
are also is a lot better. Because I mean, obviously, I primarily play Imperial Fists, who are, I mean, it's a bit of a meme, but they do obviously like to, build fortifications, hold
Build
the
them all.
line,
Yeah.
which is kind of what I like about them. And I think it makes more sense when you have that to have a more kind of take and hold based playstyle. Whereas, Ross and Shane, you two especially, play very kind of aggressive, mobile,
Mm.
melee based armies. And you think, from a narrative perspective, why would you even want to stand on this circle when you could just run off and kill everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the way that they, my kind of currently limited understanding of how it works, it does feel like it sort of encourages you as players to lean into a way of playing that works for your army rather than having to
Yeah.
build an army that just has to do everything because that's how the game goes,
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. In terms of how the detachments and what's coming up in 11th is going to work, that change should be a little bit more visible in the armies that we play. So
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was only going to say one more very quick point. Obviously, Imperial Fists have a few of their own detachments now, but the one I'm thinking of is the infamous Anvil Siege Force.
Mm.
And I remember when I did actually use it a couple of times at the start, and I remember, when I was getting back into the hobby, I said to Ross, like, "Hey, look, I've made this list," and Ross was like, "Why have you picked Anvil Siege Force?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I didn't really know what anything does," and he was like,
No,
pick something else."
no. I said, well done. I was happy he picked it because I've been saying for ages I'll only do Space Wolf detachments. I'm not taking Stormlands or something.
Yeah.
So he took it, and I was like, nice one. By the way, it sucks,
Yeah.
but I'm glad you did it. And then I think what's your new one called?
Emperor Shield is
That
is,
one.
is
That
the
one's great. That one's amazing. I'm so glad you guys got that.
yeah, it's
I
okay.
like
I
it.
mean, yeah, I think kind of going back to earlier, I don't want to just be the guy who uses Gladius all the time, So I like
Right.
the flavor of things. But yeah, what I was saying about Anvil Siege Force is, yeah, obviously as established, it sucks because it's based around standing still in a game that demands mobility to kind
Yeah.
of achieve anything, especially in terms of scoring. Whereas I guess more thematic detachments like that maybe will have more of a place in 11th because you can kind of pick your style of primary will
Mm.
be picked for you depending on your detachments. So then the more like, joke detachments like Anvil Siege Force will potentially get a bit more play, and you'll see Marine players not just defaulting to Gladius all
Yeah.
the time because it's just the one that does everything.
Hopefully so. Yeah. Hopefully that's going to be the kind of change up. So if I said to each of you, let's pretend that we were going to ever make money from this podcast and we got sponsors and that kind of thing, and that we each got to theme a table. I'll give you a couple of minutes because I've got some ideas in the chamber already. So we each get to theme a table. What narrative event, what thing would you go for? I know Ross might have a slight advantage to this because I know that the tabletop tactics guys do this at their events and stuff, don't they? They've got quite a lot of quite detailed or quite eccentric terrain.
Yeah, it's the terrain and the boards and the layouts and stuff at Tabletop Tactics. I've been there twice now.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing. Like you, it's like going to Warhammer World. You just kind of walk around staring at them. But then when it comes to playing on it, it's not very fun.
A different story, isn't it? Yeah.
It looks amazing, but there's one where it's got this like Chaos Fortress. I think it was like one of the most expensive kits they ever built. Back years ago.
What, the big castle thing?
Yeah, the big massive Chaos Castle.
Oh, wow, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they got that, and I remember when they were like hunting it down like years ago.
Yeah.
And I had a game on that with World Eaters, and we are like, mate, I know we're gonna run at each other, but this board sucks. I'm like, it looks amazing, but playing on it sucks.
Yeah.
But again, the experience you have down is amazing. But
that's the point, isn't it?
So what do you mean then? Do you mean like 11th edition layouts like the two we've seen, but themed to a certain way?
I mean, if we take away kind of the element of how it's going to play, and we presume that there's going to be an easy means of balancing this, what
Yeah.
theme would you go for? So I'm going to give you 2 examples.
Yeah.
The first one that comes to mind is the I'm going to get this wrong now. It's the Assault on Blackreach box set. When I worked for GW, I worked in one of the Bristol stores, and I joined as they were finishing the intro board, which was made as an Orc naval base, and
That's
it had
cool.
an Orc submarine.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
you had
That's class.
the gangways, and you had all of the walkways and the gantries that you would have at a docks, and it was all painted in like safety red and hazard stripes and all this sort of stuff. You know, and I think there was half a stomper that formed like the bit of the submarine you could see peeking out the water. So I spent a lot of time painting that. I mean, I didn't do any of the building. I wish I had, because it was absolutely incredible. But as a centerpiece, as something to walk into, it looked amazing. And then it was like the story of Blackreach and what was going on, and you know, Space Marines then were assaulting a dockside. So that like is a showpiece. I mean, we only ever used it for introductory games, and introductory games were never ever the in terms of the rules accurate. It was just fun and exciting and incredible and amazing. So that kind of theme is what I mean. So the one that jumps into my head is, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it's one of the Gaunt's Ghost books, and they are fighting across a forge world, and they're going factory to factory, and I think they've come out of the trenches, or they've gone round the trenches, and there's all these different sort of chaos shrines. So you've got this real.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
Wait,
It's in the first book, I think.
I haven't read them.
You haven't read them?
Oh no, don't.
What?
All right,
They're
cut
amazing,
that.
like-
Cut that on the edit. Right, just leave it. Just go. Carry on. Sorry.
But yeah, so there's a bit where they've come out of the trenches, they've been smashing all these chaos shrines and all these sort of blasphemous shrines, and then they actually step through properly into like as it's the outlines are like the sort of the factory areas, so like some of the storehouses and the warehouses and stuff, and having that scope on a board, and having like maybe like a bit of trench and a bit of like, you know, the remnants of a forest and stuff dotted around, and then you move into these sort of buildings. And make it look like, you know, that people did live there at some point, or there was a point to this living there. It's not just like a permanent battlefield. So that's mine. Has anyone?
Yeah. Okay. I'll go on. Okay. Tell me if this is what you mean, right? So the first thing that went to my head was Helm's Deep.
No.
Yeah. I
Right,
thought
okay.
that too.
But yeah, so to make it a more 40k style, and without using the obvious like Siege of Terror or the Siege of Vrax or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm obviously going to go a little Space Wolf coded and mention the Fang. So, have you been to Warhammer World? Have you seen the Space Wolf Fang Fortress and them getting invaded by Tyranids?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I would do something like that. I would have like a third of the board, like 1/3 of the board is like one massive wall with a huge gate and stuff. And like Helm's Deep, there's like a little section over there you can kind of blow out. But then like something that would like go towards Taylor's kind of army game style, you have to like hold the wall. And yeah, like you said, there's like loads of trenches and stuff. You got to get your army across the board to the wall. You've got to siege the fortress sort of thing and get in there and like, because obviously, and again, like if I use the opposite with Space Wolves and it's somewhere else, these guys want to go raid it. So you want to break through that wall and get in there sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, you know, you win, you get primaries on how many of your models are on that side of the wall or something stupid.
And it works as a, you know, if you were to play like asymmetrical or like a narrative game, that would work really well. If you had a slight twist to it, and it's not dissimilar to what you said a minute ago about the Chaos Fortress, but yeah, you had this fortress, this sort of impregnable barrier that, depending on who's playing what, whether you might both have parts of it and you're wrestling for control somewhere else, or if it's depending on how these attachments are going to work, if it's you know, one of you has to hold the point whilst the other one then is raiding it, then I think that worked really well. But the thing would be really, really cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got one. This is something I thought of quite a while ago as well, actually. It was after I read, I think it's called Warriors of Ultramar, which is the second Ventress book.
Right.
Basically, at the end of that book, him and the Death Watch, basically because they need to stop the Hive fleet that is attacking one of the planets on Ultramar, they basically go into the hive ship. So
Oh,
they
yes.
basically have an internal, like, sort of war, essentially, with him and the Death Watch are basically
Yeah.
fighting their way through the inside gubbins of a hive ship, whilst it's just overrun with Tyranids. And the way that they describe a lot of the architecture and stuff in there, like, the bioarchitecture,
Yeah.
I think would make for some really cool opportunities where they've got, like, the sort of, the tendril spires and stuff like that, and they've got, like,
Yeah.
the birthing pods and, like,
Birthing pods and the acid chambers as well, isn't it, for breaking down
yeah,
the biomass.
and I just think,
Yeah, that would be cool.
The lakes of goo.
I've got to jump in because the very first Armies on Parade event that happened, I tried to join in. It was god awful, and thankfully there's no pictures to show you. But I tried to do that. I had my Death Watch again well before the Codex, and I tried to do the board as though it were the inside of a Tyranid hive ship. I'd laid like wires on it, and then I'd like covered over it to try and make it like veins on the floor and blood vessels and stuff on the floor and up the walls and all this kind of stuff. So yes, fully agree because I love that idea.
yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things you can do, like Ross touched on just then, which I think is a very cool idea, is like, the idea of having this defensible fortress, but you have like parts of the wall that can be blown out, so you can add that narrative element to it. I think the idea of having those sort of, bioacid pools and stuff, and maybe having to utilize stuff like gangways and stuff, just to be able to navigate around it, it adds this extra little tweak to the gameplay, sort of mechanics and stuff like that. And I think that would be something quite interesting. If, as you said, we presume balance, but I mean, I know obviously that would be very difficult to do, but I just think it would be really, really cool to have that, like, that narrative focus on it and just have it be something where you go, oh yeah, I am a Space Marine Legion and I am in a hive ship and we are fighting for humanity. And that's cool.
I've got a bit on that. I'll come back to that in a second. James, have you thought of a sort of theme or style?
I have, yes. Originally, my answer was the same as Ross's. I mean,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. I mean, you kind of called it during yours anyway for me. Yeah, I've always, in like sci-fi and fantasy and stuff, I've always been a big fan of, a big siege. Helm's Deep, Minas Tirith, Siege of Terror. I've always thought that was cool. Probably another reason I like Imperial Fist so much. So I agree with Ross on that. I think that would be a really cool setting, but to kind of touch on Simon's point, I think one thing that's kind of underdone is it's always kind of a vaguely imperial ruined city. And I think it would be kind of cool to see more Xenos themed stuff. I remember in like inside the Webway, for example, like in Master of Mankind in the Heresy, you have that city, like it's called like Kalistar or something in the Webway. And the architecture is described as being, pretty insane. It kind of all like arches over on itself, and buildings come down from the ceiling and everything. It has that kind of whole, impossible geometry kind of thing going on. And obviously, you couldn't do that on a tabletop map, but I think it would be cool for Flavor to have more kind of Eldari themed maps or Tau themed maps. Because ultimately the Imperium, while it's on the defense a lot, do also attack things, and it would be cool to kind of get more of a feel for the galaxy as a whole, not just ruined Imperial City number 587.
That's perfect for me to just quickly dive into, because we have to start wrapping up at some point as well. Is there was way back in the day, there was a White Dwarf magazine issue. That's the word I wanted, and it had a narrative game in there where you were attacking a Tau space station.
I think I might have had this because I remember they made some Tau buildings out of like plant pots and stuff that were painted a certain color.
Really weird stuff. But the actual gameplay was different. So if you had jump packs, you could move normally, or you had like crisis battle suits and those kind of things. If you were wounded but your armor protected you, you got like nudged back. But then if your armor didn't protect you, but you had more than one wound, you had to roll on a dice to see if your oxygen integrity was compromised, because you may die anyway, or you might go spiraling off. There was all these cool little kind of really narrative parts of the game. So saying about like using gangways to go over acid pools and again and unifying that, or like an attack on like an Eldar world with all the Wraithbone and stuff everywhere would be so cool. Would be amazing. And hopefully,
Necron Tomb World.
yeah, Necron Tomb World
Yeah.
is perfect for it. And
Yeah, I
hopefully
saw a
we are going
game.
to have that.
Yeah, I think that'd be sweet. Like, definitely. Because, yeah, on the note of Necron Tomb World, I saw a game on YouTube where they kind of built, a Necron Tomb World, basically, and you kind of had, half the map was just the normal planet,
Yes.
and then the other half, it sort of went underground.
The Tomb World
So
underneath.
you had
Was
all
it play
these.
on?
It
It was,
play on,
yes,
mate,
yeah, that was
yeah.
it. I think it was like a 4-player game they did, and you had this kind of tomb underneath. I think you had that, like the Imperial guys had to defend a bomb that had been planted, and it was a proper cool idea for a game. And obviously, you can't do that every game, but
No.
it would be cool to see a bit more of a slant towards that kind of thing instead of
Yeah.
the same
And if
generic
we
layer every
can-
time.
If we can get those kind of themes and that style of board and have like a Necron Tomb World board that we can then play balance on 11th, then perhaps maybe when we do, like, I know obviously LXT do the events, I know NGC do the events, and I imagine most of the gaming clubs do. We do these other kinds of events, and we can do stuff like that because it's not just what configuration of L shapes can we do to make this slightly more interesting? Oh, not a lot. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to put a pin in it there before we go over time on the recording. So massive thank you to all of us for all of you for joining. So special thanks to our guest James. Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our Lord of Excess, Simon. Hopefully we sort his audio out in the post recording, and he sounds perfect. Thank you very much, Simon.
Yep, toodaloo, and sorry about that. I don't know what's been going on with my audio today.
The Lord of Fenris, who sounded beautiful as ever. Thank you, Ross.
Oh, thank you very much.
And a special thanks to the hardest working member of this team, the most humble member of this team, which of course is me, but there we go.
Since when?
I'm praising myself. Everyone, thank you very much for listening. Hope you've enjoyed this version of or this episode of the Lord's Discordance. As we always say, if you do enjoy, please subscribe, please share it to your friends, and get people involved. We want to make this as engaging as possible, and get everyone involved and make more of these episodes and hopefully have some more guests on. But that's been us. That's been the Lord's Discordance, and we'll see you next week.
Toodaloo.